Welcome to Flipping Tables, where we bring all of our religious thinking to Jesus, who flips the table for his upside-down kingdom. I'm Julie Sexton, and I'll be your host. Hey friends, welcome to episode 30. Even though we are in the middle of a series on Mark, we're going to hop over to Matthew and take one more look at the jaw-dropping miracle of Jesus walking on water. I mean, of course we have to go to Matthew because we want to bring Peter into the story. We want to talk about Peter walking on water. Mark leaves that out. That's why we're going to Matthew this week. It's a little kind of like a little side trip. It's like one of those little things you have to do. So I'm Julie, and I'm joined by both of my co-hosts, Twila Brown and Kimberly Daniels. We missed you. Twila, you weren't with us last week, so we're so happy to have you back. I don't know, do you think she looks rested?
I think she looks rested.
She looks pretty glowy, doesn't she?
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, ladies. Well, okay, I did have a great little trip and rest, and I have been waiting to tell you guys about it, but you didn't tell our listeners. I listened. You didn't tell our listeners why I wasn't here last week.
Well, no, but I didn't want to steal your thunder. I wanted to just give you all your privacy.
There were no medical forms that I signed, so you can just, there's no HIPAA. Finn Brown had strep again. Seems unbelievable, but I don't want to hang there and dwell there. But yeah, it was one of those weeks. So when we made it out of town on Friday morning, we were so happy because I was like, is the house going to fall? Is everybody going down? What's happening? Nobody else went down. Finn Brown got better. And we got to take an amazing little weekend trip. I sent you guys the pictures because I was living my very best life. I'm pretty sure.
You were living your best life.
It was hate following you.
You were hateful.
It was. So we stayed at a hotel that I would never ordinarily stay at. Check it out, friends. Maybe we'll get a sponsorship from the Arizona Biltmore Waldorf Astoria. Scored a sweetheart deal on an average room. And we did upgrade. We paid, $5 more for the room with the balcony. And when we checked in and she gave us our keys, I said, now this is the room with the balcony, right? And she's like, oh, no, it's not. And so I pulled up my little email and showed her. And she was like, okay, I'll be right back. And then I could tell she was like frantically searching. She's like, yeah, you're right. And I was like, I know. And I could tell she was searching. And so I jokingly said, well, if you need to upgrade us to one of those private villas or cottages, we won't be mad at you. In fact, we'll probably say nice things about you. So I'm here to say nice things about the girl at the front desk because we got put in one of those private cottages, you guys, like the places where like celebrities stay. And it was magic. It was so good.
I mean, your pictures were amazing.
It was beautiful. It's a Frank Lloyd Wright resort, so the architecture is amazing and the gardens. And
I kept looking at the picture and I thought, this looks like a Frank Lloyd Wright. Because my architecture studying husband, we stayed in Frank Lloyd Wright houses when he was in college.
Yes. True story. So I told Stefan, it was such a great experience, but we can never go back because it will be so average because that will never happen again. It ruined it.
Yeah.
This beautiful resort has been ruined for us. But I would highly encourage anyone to stay there. It was phenomenal. The spa was amazing. The pools were beautiful. There was an adults only pool because we were like, we want nothing to do with children. In fact, when we went to breakfast one morning and she was seating us, I was like, just please don't set us by any families.
We hate children.
We don't want to be by children. We have paid, money to fly very far away from our children this weekend.
She's really still salty about New York, isn't she? When she had that little
I think
meltdown.
I meant it. Yeah, at the sub. I mean, I still mean that at this point. Yeah, I have not dialed back any of those words yet.
It's okay.
Yeah. So anyway, it was amazing. It was so good. We chilled. We didn't actually chill. It was 116. We roasted. We took naps.
But it's a dry heat.
Right. Right.
That's what people always
right.
say. It never feels it's hot.
Which means that when there actually is a breeze in the dry heat, it feels like you're standing in front of like a heat vent, which made it really miserable.
Exactly.
I was like, we were walking and there was a breeze the evening that we were going to dinner. And I was like, oh my gosh, it feels like we're like in front of a heat vent. I'm so miserable. So yeah, but it was so fantastic, and it was a lovely resort. And we kept saying, gosh, I bet this is amazing, like in like November, December, when it's like normal temperatures there, because it was gorgeous. So there it is. I said nice things about the girl. We'd
Bad
love to
things
have your
about your children.
sponsorship. If Biltmore Waldorf Astoria wants to sponsor
Host a
us,
Flourish retreat.
or host a retreat.
Oh my goodness. Wouldn't that be awesome?
Yes.
Sponsor us, whatever. So maybe hashtag it
Not
in
a
our
summer
show notes,
retreat.
okay?
Our winter retreat.
Yeah, our winter retreat.
Winter
Because we retreat so often.
Yes, we do retreat so often. Let's see. What did I do this weekend? Oh my goodness. It was Living Proof Live. And that means Beth Moore was in Lexington. And it was awesome. I had the best time with my mom and with a whole group of friends. And my mom and I had bought tickets in December, just the two of us, because I wanted to get the cheapest tickets when they were available. So I bought tickets really quick and didn't ask anyone. And then a friend, much more thoughtful than me, got a whole package of group tickets. And she said, oh, I'm just going to see if they'll let you join our group, which meant we would have reserved seats. And so I said, that's fantastic. And so she did all that. She arranged all of it. I felt like my friend Deanna took such good care of this whole group of people. She had brought in friends from multiple states and different places that she's lived. And we had these great seats, and I didn't have to worry about, any of that stuff. And she did all of it. And I felt kind of pampered.
That's
and
awesome.
you didn't get arrested either, because you didn't fangirl stalk Beth Moore, right? I probably would have gotten arrested.
I didn't. But
Crazy lady.
I act better around celebrity people than you do.
You do.
I have a lot more self-control.
You do. I'm shameless.
I will say there was this woman. Beth will always interact with some people in the audience, and she had kind of zeroed in on this little pregnant mama that was down in the second row or something, and she wanted to go, and it was precious. She went over and she laid hands on this little belly and prayed for this baby, and it was beautiful.
Oh, that is sweet.
It was so sweet. But there was a woman who would have been like you, Twila, who was like, oh my goodness, Beth Moore is very close to me, and she ran and swooped in on the minute.
She tried to touch the hem of her robe.
And she did. She hugged Beth Moore, and she just gushed a little bit.
That's hysterical.
It was hysterical.
That might have been me.
Yeah, were you actually there?
I know, but I did listen to a podcast with Beth Moore, and I started listening to her audiobook of All My Knotted Up Life. So I was with Beth in spirit.
There you go.
Yes. And Kimberly, you were supposed to go, but you had a change of plan.
I did. We were just overbooked. Well, I should say I was overbooked. And so I gave my ticket to my sweet aunt, and she had the best time.
She did. I saw her. I saw her coming in, and I was going to invite her to sit in our seats because that's where your seat was going to be. And she got ushered right down to the front.
She bypassed you.
She bypassed me. She was on the second row center.
Wow.
She lived her best life,
I
too.
was like, way to go.
That's amazing.
And we had read Sharon Hodie Miller's book on control.
The Cost of Control.
And Beth brought her, and she opened for Beth on Friday night, gave a fantastic talk. And it was really, really good.
Oh, I'm glad you had a good time.
So it was fun. But I did feel, after it was all over, I felt really, really tired.
Yeah.
I crashed that afternoon. We were supposed to go to something that evening, and I just said, you know what? I just don't think I can do that. I've had a full couple of days here, and we stayed home on Sunday too. We took a true Sabbath and just rested, and it was good.
Yeah, sometimes you have to say no to things. And that's okay.
Yeah, it is. I didn't guilt you at all about not
No.
going.
You were
because
like, oh, good. I have so many people I need to say hi to. This is one less.
that is not at all what I was thinking about.
I'm just kidding.
But it was good. So it was a real quick, very funny story. Beth said the last time she was in Lexington, which would have been in like Rupp Arena, and I was there, and I remember I remember the conference very well. But she told us that at that conference that they did like an altar call, and like a small group of people, accepted the Lord, and they got to go back and spend time over, a break with them. And one of these women who had just given her life to Jesus tried to walk out of that time with Travis Cottrell's briefcase.
Oh.
She tried to steal his briefcase. She just
Wow.
picked it up like it was hers and walked out, and Travis had to say, "Ma'am, that's mine." And so Beth said, we always remember that about coming to Lexington.
Wow.
The thieves.
That happened. She tells another really funny story, but I'm not going to tell that one online, but on the podcast, but I will tell you to you all, because I don't think we would be able to regain control.
Okay.
Oh, I can't wait.
If I told this on the podcast.
Okay.
So,
I will not let you forget.
something to look forward to. Okay, friends, as we continue to go through this book of Mark, I just want to say something that I said when we started this whole series. Mark wrote Peter's gospel. When you read Mark, you are reading words that Mark probably heard Peter preach on. Mark is essentially teaching us from his notes from Peter's sermons. And I love that. I love to listen to people's sermons. I love to listen to Tim Keller's sermons. He's one of my favorites. That was someone that Beth Moore mentioned that night, which I was like, me too, Beth. Me too. I listen to Tim Keller's sermons too, because who doesn't? You're just like, he's such especially now, it's like now he's like even more of a treasure to us now that he has gone on to glory. But another thing that I have been doing as of late, I know you all think I probably read a lot of books, and I guess I do, because I am going to reference yet another book that I'm reading. But I am reading this book, which is taken from sermons that Eugene Peterson gave. Because I don't know if you know this, friends, but he was a pastor for like 29 or 30 years before he ever went on to, do the message and all the things that we kind of know Eugene Peterson for. And he's written some great books, but I'm listening, or not, actually, I'm not listening. I listen to a lot of things, but I have the actual book and I'm reading it. But there's this whole section in this book of sermons that Eugene Peterson gives just on Mark. And I thought, oh my goodness, I wish I had realized that this was in here, because I kind of started in the middle of the book when I realized what was happening. But again, thank you, God. We have been doing pretty good based on some of the nuggets that I've gleaned from Eugene Peterson's sermons. So I was like, wow, good to know. I'm not actually going to pull anything from a Eugene Peterson into this lesson tonight. Honestly, guys, this lesson is going to come really right out of my heart. It's flowing right out of what this passage has meant to me. So in that last episode, we talked about Jesus walking on water, again from Mark's gospel. And I loved that episode because we got to use that phrase, pass them by. And that's something that Mark puts in there, and we got to make connections back to Moses and Elijah. And if you've listened to that episode, I hope that blessed you. It for sure blessed me. It's one of my favorite things. But the funny thing about being a Bible teacher is the teacher gets to learn and receive from the lesson before the audience. So the incredible privilege of learning through the study and preparation, but also as I record these episodes, they're speaking into my life. They're ministering into my life. And as it turns out, in my own personal walk with Jesus, this week I needed to go to Matthew. I needed to behold not just Jesus walking on water, but I needed to see Peter walking on water. I feel compelled to share this with you all because the Lord has really met me in some places that I have had the faith to take the initial steps. And I have found myself, what I would say, spiritually walking on water, but just for short periods of time. And then what happens is the waves come crashing all around me. And what I have found myself asking Jesus is not just for faith to walk on water, but I've been asking the Lord to teach me how to not sink in the waves. I'm an eager student. I want Jesus to disciple me, not only in walking on water, but how not to end up later feeling like I'm going to drown. Anybody else? Do you guys feel that way sometimes? Do you feel like I have the faith to start and go, but then something happens?
It's funny that you say that. There was a line in the, it was a podcast with Beth Moore. And she said something that stuck out to me, and I don't quote me exactly, but it was something to the effect of like, in her walk, especially in the early days, that she said, give me faith, and give me faith that sustains me. And sustain that faith in me. And I was like, oh, that is really good, because it's like sometimes we do have to ask God to build our faith and sustain it, because it goes in those kind of wave patterns of highs and lows. And so, yeah, that stuck out to me. This is interesting. Beth Moore all over again. There she is.
If she could only teach the Bible, I
know.
She says with a lot of sarcasm.
Yes.
But, isn't it a curious thought? If Mark was essentially writing Peter's gospel, why did he leave out that Peter walked on water? You guys have any thoughts? Why did he leave that out?
I've got nothing good for you.
Nothing good.
I don't know. It seems like it was so personal to Peter.
Maybe
he didn't have the right to tell somebody else's experience.
Maybe.
That's a good thought.
I don't know.
As I kind of wrestled with that question myself, I thought, Julie, you just need to keep your eyes on Jesus, because he's the one who walks on water. He's the one by whom I could walk on water. This is all Jesus. None of this was on Peter. Peter walked when he focused on Jesus, not on the waves. The waves were his problem, and the waves are my problem. I can focus for short spurts of time. And at that time, what Peter was able to do was only made possible because of Jesus. The Bible headline is that Jesus walks on water. And I think that's why Mark left Peter out of it. Peter learning that him walking on water really had nothing to do with him. The impossible was made possible by Jesus. And I just kind of thought, maybe Peter told Mark, when you write this, just leave me out of it. I'm not the point. Jesus is the point. And again, we know Mark likes to use few words, and but he also, like you said, Kimberly, he may have just had such respect for Peter that he didn't want to do it, because Peter had really discipled him. He had traveled and learned so much from him. But you know what? Mark wrote his gospel first, and in all likelihood, Peter had probably already been martyred. And we know that Matthew and Luke used Mark's gospel as a reference. And when Matthew wrote about this, he wrote about Peter. And when we talk about who wrote what and why they wrote what they wrote, we need to always come back to the Spirit. The Holy Spirit led each one of these authors to write what they wrote. The scriptures have the author's personality and voice, but the words are still divine. It's one of the things that makes the scripture complete and a perfect masterpiece. There is no other book that has 40 authors written over 1,500 years that flows and tells one cohesive story. So I need one of you. Who wants to read?
I'll read.
You'll read? Okay.
I'll read.
So you read from Matthew.
Starting with verse 22. Immediately Jesus made the disciples get into the boat and go on ahead of him to the other side, while he dismissed the crowd. After he had dismissed them, he went up on a mountainside by himself to pray. Later that night he was there alone, and the boat was already a considerable distance from land, buffeted by the waves because the wind was against it. Shortly before dawn, Jesus went on to them, walking on the lake. While the disciples saw him walking on the lake, they were terrified. "It's a ghost," they said, and they cried out in fear. But Jesus immediately said to them, "Take courage, it is I, don't be afraid." "Lord, if it is you," Peter replied, "tell me to come to you on the water." "Come," he said. Then Peter got down out of the boat and walked on the water and came toward Jesus. But when he saw the wind, he was afraid, and beginning to sink, cried out, "Lord, save me." Immediately Jesus reached out his hand and caught him. "You of little faith," he said, "why did you doubt?" And when they climbed into the boat, the wind died down. Then those who were in the boat worshipped him, saying, "Truly, you are the Son of God."
Thank you. That's so good. You know, all of the disciples saw Jesus. That stands out to me. But Matthew wants us to know they all saw him, but it was Mr. Speak Before You Think, Peter, who was the only one who had the courage to say, "Lord, tell me to come to you on the water." I mean, this amazes us. I think it probably amazed the other disciples too. Because this is one of those moments where Peter's impulsiveness actually shines. It's impressive.
That's why we like him.
We do. We do. Matthew, who is so careful with all the details, who double checks and connects all the numbers and all the references, when he saw this, I think his eyes lit up. Jesus does jaw-dropping things all the time. But Peter, on the other hand, not so much, at least at that time. If we didn't know that Peter walked on water, as humans, we are very much aware of our limitations. We might not even know it was possible for a human to walk on water. I have to tell you, I need to know that it's possible, that some ordinary guy showed us that it was possible. I need to know that faith in Jesus can produce this kind of faith in me. Faith that when my eyes are on Jesus, anything is possible. For Peter, this is another first step in his growing faith. We shouldn't be too hard on Peter when he begins to sink. I always get a little defensive of Peter. Do you get a little defensive of Peter when, someone's giving a message and they're talking about this and they start I'm like,
he got out of the boat. Mm-hmm. I mean,
he just walked on water.
Right.
Again, Bible boyfriend, Peter, we're going to defend him just a little bit. I think Barbie would have done it right. And we're like Barbie would have done that. So it's in the sinking that he regained his focus. The sinking is so important because he says, "Lord, save me." And when I really meditated on that this week, it's so easy for me to beat myself up over my sinking faith. But it's when we sink that we regain our focus. The point isn't that I walk on water all the way to Jesus, doing everything, just perfectly, that there's no wind, there's no waves, there's nothing to rattle me. That's not impressive at all. It doesn't help me to regain my focus. I could be very prideful in the scenario that I just described. If you picture Peter just skipping along on the waves, not having any problem, high-fiving Jesus, that's a whole different scene. And probably nobody would have wrote about that because no reason to puff Peter up. But when he did start to sink and he said, Lord, save me, that's where he regained his focus. What the sinking does is remind us that we need Jesus for every single step. And that's why I wanted to talk about this tonight. We need to be people who pray, Jesus, I love you. You are everything that I love and I want and everything that I need. It's all in your hands. So when you pray, Lord, help me, or Lord, save me, please remember that Lord, help me is a faith that's growing, faith that's being strengthened to stand in the midst of the waves. It's a little faith that's under construction, faith that's a work in progress. We learn to walk on water one step at a time, but we have to remember that every step is made possible by Jesus. You know, we said in our last episode, Jesus is mightier than the waves of the sea. Jesus will always be our peace in the chaos. He is the one who speaks to the waves, peace, be still. We just have to keep walking, friends. And when you begin to sink, and you will, in the words of Peter, just say, Lord, save me. And just start again.
I love that. That's so good. You know, that's honestly, I think that's why when we went to Israel, like the Sea of Galilee was one of my favorite places that we visited. And I think that's why, like, I just couldn't like help but think about like Peter and Jesus, like out on the water and walking on water and just the image of that, you know, unfolding right there. That was one of my favorite things, and I think that's why I've always loved this story. But those were great words of encouragement. Thank you, Julie.
Well, you're
for
welcome.
sharing those
And
with all of us.
I think I was a little sad that you weren't with us to talk about the Sea of Galilee last week because we love it so much.
I know, we do love it so much. It's our favorite. Pretty much our favorite.
Yeah. So I think we should probably wrap up with a bright spot.
Yeah. I can go first.
Oh,
they're plentiful. They're still plentiful in my world. You know, mine was obviously my weekend. Just getting to like have that time away with Stefan and reconnect after a busy summer and lots of kids 24/7. And it was nice to just have that time where we could just connect and be with each other. And so I think we both really came back refreshed and restored. And it's funny, I feel like usually when you come back from a trip like that, like within 24 hours, like it's all undone, right? And it did not like just unravel as soon as we walked in the door. We've had such a great week and have continued to just kind of like ride that like wave of feeling refreshed. So that would be my bright spot. Yeah. What about you guys?
Well, we celebrated 2 birthdays in our family this past weekend.
Yay!
Yeah. So my son Elliot turned 12. And my sister-in-law Ashley had a birthday, and we just got to spend time with both of them and celebrate them. And
happy birthday, Ashley!
Happy birthday, Ashley! We know you listen.
Did you? What I need to know? What was the cake situation?
Oh yeah. Elliot,
what was the cake situation?
Elliot
That's
asked
what it's
for
really
an,
about.
Yes,
I know the listeners want to know too.
Of course.
Elliot asked for an ice cream cake. So, yeah, it had chocolate ice cream on the bottom and then like a Oreo and fudge middle with vanilla bean ice cream on top and then whipped cream as the frosting. It was like a Dairy Queen dupe.
Yeah.
And it was really pretty. And it tasted awesome. And Julie was like, I hope I get a piece of that. And we gobbled it up. There's
done and done.
Yeah. There were no leftovers.
Way to shake it up in the cake world.
There you go.
I did see it in the freezer, and I did ask you. I was like, I think I need a piece of that. I knew there was going to be none.
There was no hope.
There was no hope. It's okay. I have to do a late birthday for Shelby because she was out of town for her birthday this weekend.
What are you going to make for her?
I'm actually going to make her an ice cream cake.
Oh,
well.
It must be the August birthdays. They just want that cold.
Listen, it's hot in here.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
It is hot. Not Arizona hot.
Not Arizona hot, but hot is hot.
But it's humid and
Yeah.
icky, so a little ice cream cake's going to go a long way.
Yes.
But I think my bright spot had to be just my weekend, getting to see Beth Moore. I've got to see her so many times over the years, and it was fun to do that with my mom because I'm always like, will that be the last time? Because, you never know whether she's going to be close enough, or I think she's doing a lot less than she used to do and stuff. So it was just good to be with all of these Jesus loving women and lots of different generations, and to be able to see her in a church was I've seen her in a church before, but it was at Southeast in Louisville, and if you've been to Southeast in Louisville, it's kind of like a mini stadium. So it's not
Not an intimate venue.
No.
not an intimate venue. This was it's a nice sized church, but it was still really, really nice to be there. And I will say that they had technical problems. This is a good story. This isn't the story that I'm saving for off camera. But when they came out to start the worship, we could just tell they were stalling. We were like, what's going on? Like, you knew there was a problem. And all of this, and like you can tell, like Beth's like over here on the side praying, and all of a sudden it just started. And they literally said the guy took the laptop, closed it, prayed over it in Spanish, and then opened it back up, and then everything worked. They just couldn't get their audio to work in the church and be on the screens. It was wild.
That is wild.
Beth is going to remember Lexington for
Lexington
the wrong
is
reasons.
a memorable stop for her. She probably should come every year because I think we provide her with a lot of drama.
That is
A
funny.
little bit of fun thing.
Well, I think it's only appropriate that we wrapped up the bright spots with Beth Moore, a table flipper herself.
Yes.
And so, as we always say, keep following the table flipper and leave the table flip into Jesus.